Hello, hello. This is Tyson Farmer from TysonFarmer.com. In the music world, us guitarists have kind of earned a bit of a reputation for not being able to read music in standard notation. However, this does not mean guitarists are lazy by any stretch. In fact, the guitar is one of the most difficult instruments to learn to read notation for in the music world. There are several reasons for this, which are worth knowing whether you're an absolute beginner or an advanced player who never got around to learning to read music. So in today's lesson, I'm going to be talking about why guitarists suck at reading music. A quick disclaimer, although I'm making this video about guitar, you can take any of the things I say here as applicable to any instrument with both strings and frets, such as bass guitar, banjo, ukulele, mandolin, etc. Just insert the name of your own fretted and stringed instrument wherever you hear the word guitar. Incidentally, violins, violas, cellos, and the like do not fit into this category since they don't have frets. So, although guitarists have a specialized form of written music called guitar tablature, or sometimes tabs, by reading music, I want to be clear that I'm specifically talking in this video about standard notation, the dots and squiggles and symbols that most people usually associate with written music. Don't worry though, I'll be talking about guitar tab too. In fact, it's actually one of the reasons why guitarists suck at standard notation. So there are several reasons why us guitarists have this reputation. One, the unique nature of guitars and their note setup make it super difficult to learn notes in the first place. Two, the extreme learning curve of standard notation when it's applied to the guitar adds yet another layer of difficulty. And three, the comparatively quick and easy learning curve of chord grids and guitar tablature usually steer people away from bothering to start this extreme learning curve in the first place. First off, the unique nature of stringed and fretted instruments make note identification a lot more difficult. While most other instruments have only one option per note, there are usually numerous duplications for the same note all over the guitar neck, so you could potentially choose any one of several options anytime a note is required. For example, there is only one high C on the piano, while the guitar has 5 high Cs, all different versions of the same unison note on different strings. This also means that if you want to learn the notes on the guitar, you have to learn many of them repeatedly in multiple positions and strings along the neck. As a result, there are usually several different ways one can play any melody or chord on the guitar, and guitarists often disagree about what are the best ways to play the same melody or chord on the guitar neck. On most other instruments, being familiar with the names and positions of the notes and where to play them are a technical requirement before you can even begin to play any chords, melodies, or scales. But the only skills guitarists really require to play these things are to learn the visual patterns required for them and to have enough hand strength and dexterity to play them. So, guitarists usually start by learning visual finger patterns and templates, and not the notes that the chords and scales are built with. Later on in your advanced playing, if you do learn to read, it's really just a bonus skill in addition to the visual patterns. On most other instruments, moving any chord, scale, or melody up or down in pitch requires a completely different hand and finger pattern. But on guitar, you just apply whatever movable template you need and slide it up and down along the neck without having to change the finger pattern you're using. The nature of the guitar fretboard makes it easy to memorize the lower sounding root notes as reference points, so a guitarist only needs to apply whatever chord or scale template pattern they need onto these roots. Because of all the above, many famous guitarists throughout history never learned to read guitar, but had successful music careers anyway.
Do you read music?
No, not at all.
You don't read music?
I don't know.
I never learned how to read music.
I don't know how to read music at all.
I don't know what any of the chords really are.
I flunk music is flat. Only thing I ever fail.
For more on this topic, check out my video titled Famous Guitarists Who Can't Read Music. Next, the nature of standard notation makes things even more difficult for guitarists to know their notes and read music. Reading standard notation has a much harder learning curve on guitar than most other instruments. Because there are numerous duplications for the same notes all over the guitar neck, there's usually only one way to write any melody or chord in standard notation, but several different ways of playing it on the guitar. As a result, it's easy for a guitarist to become overwhelmed and hit analysis paralysis by not knowing which of several interpretations it's best to choose from, or to end up painting themselves into a corner with the path they do choose. Guitarists usually can't read the standard notation of most other instruments, especially piano, and require their own specialized version of guitar notation in the treble clef. And even then, a C note is not the same C note as most other instruments. For those of you who can read, did you know the guitar is actually transposed an octave down from concert pitch? Play a middle C on guitar and compare it to a middle C on piano to prove this. I was well into my career as a music major in classical guitar before I even learned this little forehead slapper. Well-written guitar notation has specialized guitar markings to tell you which position, string, and finger to play each note on as a courtesy. But if it doesn't, you have to basically just figure it out yourself using deductive reasoning. If you realize later in the music that you made a bad choice, you have to go back and figure it out all over again from a different position. You can get good at reading less specialized, more generic standard notation for guitar, but it takes a long time and a lot of hard work because of all the different positions, possibilities, and interpretations you have to be familiar with. Because guitarists don't really have to learn to read music to play the guitar well, most guitarists have to force themselves to learn to read through their own efforts and sheer stubborn willpower because they really want to, not because they have to, like most other instruments. And finally, the easier learning curve of guitar chord grids and tablature pretty much incentivizes not having to learn standard notation. Guitar chord grids and tablature notation are designed for and exclusive to guitar. In fact, any chord grids and tablature only work on their corresponding stringed and fretted instruments. They don't work for any other instruments. In other words, guitar tab only works for guitar, ukulele tab only works for ukulele, and banjo tab only works for banjo. Tablature and chord grids are completely visually based. They show you where to put your fingers and which strings to pick in what order, and have a super easy learning curve. You can usually learn the basics of chord grids or tablature in one sitting, and they're often taught within the first few guitar lessons a student takes to get them playing quickly. Nowadays, there is so much more support for tablature on guitar than there used to be pre-internet, so learning to read standard notation is not really even as desired as it used to be. Thousands of guitar tablature scores are available for free online and are crowdsourced, while many standard notation scores are still behind paywalls, whether online or in printed form. Since guitar tablature and chord grids are way easier to learn and read than standard notation and are usually free, can you see why most guitarists don't even bother? It's a path of least resistance thing, and many guitarists feel tablature is much more detailed and effective than standard notation anyway. And finally, I feel that the ability to read standard notation is a much more practical skill for professional career track guitarists to have. But I feel it's a bit of impractical overkill for the weekend warrior and hobbyist. I only recommend learning to read standard notation first to my students if they have a specific need to, or they're on the career track and plan on dry reading a lot of music charts at gigs. Otherwise, just get yourself playing first. I was already rocking out on guitar for years before I even started learning to read notation, and I never regretted it. Think about it. With language, we naturally learn to speak long before we start learning to read the printed word. But for some reason, most guitarists feel obligated to do the exact opposite. If we were forbidden to speak until we could read books fluently, we'd have whole generations of people with some serious speech impediments. So my suggestion is don't torture yourself and focus on having fun and making music on the guitar first. You can always opt to learn to read standard notation later on in the game on your own terms, after you've been making music for a while. For a really geeky deep dive on this, I recommend an excellent video I recently found by a YouTuber called Tantacruel entitled "Notation Must Die: The Battle for How We Read Music." So what are your thoughts on the matter? Should all guitarists learn to read standard notation, or just guitarists with specialized goals and needs? Can a guitarist really reach their full potential if they don't learn to read standard notation, or is tablature and playing by ear enough? Share your opinion on the comments section below. Now, if most of the stuff I talked about in this lesson left you a bit confused, or you even got some of it but want to further sharpen your music theory knowledge and playing skills, I recommend checking out the links below for how to sign up for my online classes. If you like my teaching style, be sure to check out my channel for more tutorial videos, and check the links below the videos for more teaching and music learning resources that I offer. I'm always adding to my video channel when I can, so check in often to see what's new. This is Tyson Farmer from TysonFarmer.com. Thanks for checking my channel out, and stay self-motivated and keep playing.